Here you're given the scenario where there's a 20-meter track, okay, and a red cart on the left over here is pointing and moving to the right, and a blue car on the right is moving to the left at negative 3 meters per second. We say that's a negative because, let's say, to the left is negative, and we say 2 meters per second of cart number 1 of the red cart is positive because to the right is positive. Let us figure out where they're going to hit in the middle. First, we start with the definitions of velocity. Velocity of cart number 1 means that it will change its position in a certain amount of time. Velocity of cart number 2 means the same thing. It will change its position in a certain amount of time. And when we say change in position, what we mean is we mean the final position minus the initial position. That's the distance that it traveled in a certain amount of time. That ratio is the velocity. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to write velocity of cart 1 is equal to x final minus x initial divided by the amount of time that it takes to reach that final position. Velocity of cart number 2 then says x final of cart number 2, that's where they collide, minus x initial, that's where cart number 2 starts, divided by how much time it takes the cart to go from where it starts to where it collides with the red cart. One thing that we do know about this scenario, we know that the amount of time that the red cart will be moving for is the same amount of time as the amount of time that the blue cart will be moving for. So if I multiply both sides of this equation by t, these will cancel, and now I'll divide both sides by velocity of cart number 1. So I'm left with t is equal to x final minus x initial. Remember, I have to divide by the velocity of cart number 1. Okay? That's how we can find how much time this cart number 1, will be traveling before it hits cart number 2. Let us find how much time cart number 2 will be traveling for before it hits cart number 1. Again, multiply both sides by t, then divide by velocity 2. T is equal to x final minus x initial all over velocity of cart number 2. I'm going to just make this a little bit smaller so it might be easier to see. One thing that we do know is we know that the amount of time that cart number 1 will be traveling for is the same as the amount of time that cart 2 will be traveling for. So I can set these two things equal to each other. Okay, x final of cart number 1 minus x initial of cart number 1 all over velocity of cart number 1 is equal to x final of cart number 2 minus x initial of cart number 2 all divided by the velocity of cart number 2. Again, I'm just going to make that a little bit smaller here. Okay. We know a few of these things. First of all, we know that the final position of cart number 1 is the same as the final position of cart number 2. That's what we want to find. We know that the initial position of cart number 1 is over here. That's the mark is 0. We know that the initial position of cart number 2 is over here, and that's 20 meters away. That's at mark 20. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say x final minus 0 divided by the initial velocity, or the velocity of cart number 1, which is 2 meters per second, is equal to x final minus the initial position of cart 2, which is 20, all divided by the velocity of cart number 2, which is negative 3 meters per second. And now we just have to solve this equation for x final. Let's multiply both sides by 2. Multiply both sides by 2. Okay. I'm going to move that up there. And now we have x final is equal to x final minus 20 divided by negative 3 times 2. We want to get rid of that negative 3. Let's multiply this side by negative 3, so those cancel. Let's multiply this side by negative 3. We're left with negative 3 x final is equal to 2x final minus 40. All that I did there was distribute that 2 to both sides. Let's subtract 2x from both sides, so I get negative 5x final is equal to 40. That means that the final position, x final, will be equal to 8, negative 40 there. Divide negative 40 divided by negative 5, you get a positive 8. That means our final position is 8 meters away. If we go ahead and look at our original chart here again, that means that 8 meters away, somewhere right around here, is where the carts will collide. And thinking about it, that makes sense because cart number 2 is traveling faster than cart number 1, so they'll collide closer to where the red cart began. Thank you.